Good morning, gentlemen of the Daf. We are on Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, 8 lines down from Itmar, from the word Itmar. 8 lines down on Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. Itmar. So, what we said in the base medrash. Mipnei ma'osru shechar shel ovdei kochavim. So we know the wine that is from non-Jews can't be used. They used to use that for idolatry. But then they also, later on, and it seems like it was not during the times of the Mishnah, they later on added this during the times of the Gemara, that you're not allowed to have non-Jewish beer as well. Practically, in modern times, we don't hold that way, right? In modern times, a beer, it's good to have a hechsher, but if you have plain regular beers, right, people used to drink in my day, right, you get a Budweiser or whatever, never had a hechsher on it for some reason, and that was okay. Check with your local hashgachos for current practice, but because they put flavorings and all kinds of things in beers. However, regular unflavored beer is not a yayin nesech issue. It's not you're not worried about it. But they had a halacha that they were not able to drink beer, the non-Jewish beer. So why was that? Where did that come from? So Rami Bar Chama Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. So Rami Bar Chama said in Rabbi Yitzchak Mishum Chasnos, the issue was that we didn't want to get the Jews and non-Jews drinking together, and then people would intermarry, right? And so therefore that was the problem. Rav Nachman Amar Mishum Giluya. The problem is that the non-Jews are not careful about leaving their liquids uncovered, and so therefore, if you drink from their beer, then you have a dangerous concern as well. So Gilui Demai. So what are we worried about? What kind of being left uncovered are we worried about? Ilema Giluya de Nezaisa. If we're worried about the vats that they make the beer in, they brew, I guess, in big vats, right? So if you're worried about that, Anami Maglinon. We also don't cover our vats while they're being brewed. It never bothered anyone, right? Apparently the snakes don't like beer in any event, right? We had learned that. Snakes don't like beer, if you were worried. Yeah. Snakes do not like beer, so therefore it was not an issue. Once the brewing process is starting, snakes are avoiding that anyway. Ve'ela de chavisa. The issue is, what about in the barrels, right? Maybe once the beer is stored in the barrels, so ananami maglinon. So we also leave those uncovered. Not a problem for us either. Again, snakes don't like beer. It's not an issue. So, lo tzricha be'asr de matzlu maya. So we're talking about a country where the practice was, or a location where the practice was that they would let the water sit. So they would scoop up the water, and then the water, I guess, had like sediment or whatever that was in it. So you let the water just sit for a little bit, and then it clears. So this way they could use nice, clear water for their beer. So if they're just letting the water sit, that would be problematic if they left that open, right? Because the snakes do go to the water, so therefore leaving your water open would be problematic.
You use the water for like diluting purposes?
No, they use the water for beer, right? They would cook the hops and beer production. But in any event, we'll watch it. Yeah, but they're basically, it's brewed, right? Beer is brewed, so they've got to cook it and such. It's mostly liquid beer, as far as I remember. So therefore, it's the water has to be added. Okay. Elameata yoshan tishtari. So if that is the case, so then according to that viewpoint, that's where the problem is. So then the old should be able to be drank, right? Why? Damar Rabbi Chanina. We changed Rabbi Chanina. Yesh motor yoshan mutter. So that old wine and beer is okay because once because ain where did I go? Sorry, Damar Rabbi Chanina Yoshan mutter ain manichon liyoshan. Because the venom, thank you, I can't think of the word. The venom does not allow the wine to age. So if you have venom in your wine and it's aging anyway, right? Well, sorry, if you have wine and it's aging properly, it's not going bad. So then your wine is fine. It's proof that there's no venom in it. So therefore, if you had old wine or old beer and it's fermented and it's all working properly, so then you should be fine, right? So hechmitz, if it turns into vinegar, so then mutter, that's also fine because it wouldn't turn to vinegar, right? The chemical process, I guess, gets frozen when it gets some snake venom in them. So therefore, that would prove that the liquid is safe. So ein manicho lahachmitz, because it does not allow it to turn to vinegar. So the answer is, why are we still have this rule that we're not allowed to drink the old beer? According to one opinion, it's not an issue because they just don't want you drinking with the non-Jews in the first place. But according to this opinion, that is because of danger. Gzeira yoshan atu chodosh. They just made the rule. They made the rule that you're not going to drink any beer because we were concerned that people would drink the new beer and the new beer would be dangerous. So therefore, that's what we have to worry about. Rav Papa mafikin le la bava de chanusa. So Rav Papa, in order to avoid, he felt that the reason for the enactment was because that they would become too much friendly with the non-Jews. So his solution to that problem was, he wouldn't drink the beer with the non-Jews. He would take it out of the store before he would drink it. So he wouldn't drink in the bar, right? He'd make an order. Can I have a beer, please? They'd say yes. He'd take the glass, walk out the door, and drink it outside. Rav Achai maisule lebese. Rav Achai would bring it home first. He would drink the beer at home, right? There isn't a problem with beer. It's a problem with socializing. So therefore, and that's possibly why we don't have the rule nowadays. It seems even in its day, the rule was not entirely adopted, right? We take steps in order to worry about the fraternizing with the non-Jews, but not prohibiting the beer. V'tarvaihu mishum chasnus. Both of them held the problem was because of the relationship. They were not scared of the uncovered venom because that wouldn't have helped. You take it home and drink your venom. It doesn't help. Rav Achai ovid harchaka yeserta. And Rav Achai, the reason why he took it all the way home is he was going above and beyond, right? You could have literally just walked out the door. That would have been fine, right? Rav Shmuel bar Bisna ikla lemargon. So Rav Shmuel bar Bisna, he went to a place called Marguon. Marguon was a place that the Jews were there. They were not careful with keeping their wine away from the non-Jews. Aisule chamro, so they brought him a glass of wine. Velo ishti, and he refused to drink it. He was worried about the non-Jews touching it and being yayin nesach. Aisule shichra, they brought him some beer. Velo ashti, and he didn't drink that either. Now, bishlam chamra, we understand why he didn't drink the wine. Mishom shimtza, because we were worried, right, that he would, that maybe they consecrated it for Avodah Zara. But shichra mishum mai. So what about what would be the reason why they wouldn't drink the beer? After all, if the non-Jews touched it, it's not an issue. And if they, who's he drinking with right now? Everybody there is Jewish. He's drinking with. The problem we had was that they weren't careful that their beer was being touched by non-Jews, but he wasn't drinking with the non-Jews. He was drinking only with the Jews. So what would be the reason? So the answer is mishum shimtza de shimtza. He would refuse to drink the beer because it was a rabbinic enact. He felt strongly, don't drink the beer because you might drink the wine, and don't drink the wine because they were doing their yayin nesach. So he was taking on an additional stringency. Amar Rav. So Rav says, "Hi shichra de arama shari." So he says that there was the Aramean beer, right? That's totally fine. You can drink the Aramean beer. And v'chia bri, and my son Chia, lo nishti mine, but he shouldn't drink it. My son Reb Chia should not drink from it. So manavshach, 1 second. Which way are you looking at it? Ishari, so if it's okay, lukuliyama shari, then everybody can drink it, right? Asir, if it's prohibited, lukuliyama asir. What do you mean he makes a chumrah for his son? Why is it, either it's mutter or it's asir. Everybody can drink it or nobody can drink it. Why is his son differently? Ela Rav savar mishum giluya. Rav held that the problem was that they would leave their wine, their beer uncovered. That was the issue with beer, according to him. And v'azo merura de kashusa v'kalile. So what happens is they have a very bitter or strong beer, and their strong beer that they have would come in and would take out the poison. So the poison that they had really wasn't that much of a problem. Even if a snake got in there and it got some poison, it wasn't that big a deal. So for other people to drink it, it wasn't that problem. So, however, the kali le zihare would take out its strength. That's right, I forgot. Udelaki malkile, udelaki. However, if a person who is sick would drink it, so the malkule tfei, it would hurt him more, right? If you were already prone to illness, so then it's not a healthy beverage, right? It's not going to hurt you really if you're a healthy person, but if you're not a healthy person, it's a problem. V'chia bri, and Chia, my son, hol vilaki, since he's already an infirm person, lo nishtimine, we tell him not to drink it. That was why his son couldn't drink it. Morning.
Good.
All right. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, yesh lehem aros. Every creepy crawly creature has a little bit of venom in them, right? That sounds like a country song, right? Every creepy crawly's got a little bit of venom, but shel nachash, but a snake memis is going to kill you, right? Snakes very, very powerful. Shel shrotzim eno memis, but the creepy crawlies, so that's not going to kill you, right? Maybe it's a little bit unhealthy or whatever, but it's okay. Amar le Shmuel lechia barav. So Shmuel said to Chia barav, bar Arya tov emalach milsa alaisa dehava amar rav avuch. So he says, bar Arya. What does he call him? Bar Arya,
Son of Torah.
Son of Torah. Yeah, bar Arya, right? I guess the son of a lion, maybe? Is Arya a son of Torah? He's a son of Torah, right? So he says that this is what he gave him a nickname. He says, come and I'm going to tell you something that your father, right? That your father, who is Rav, said this wonderful thing about this point. And he said, Hachi Marvuch, this is what your father said. Hani Aramai Zukani, these Arameans are very big and fat and bloated. Not fat, but bloated, I guess. Bloated, they're very big and bloated. Davushasu Giluya Velomesu. They drink their uncovered beverages. They don't die, right? I guess they would. Why? Because since they eat all of these creepy, crawly, gross creatures, their bodies have built up a resistance, and as a result, when they drink the poisonous liquids, it's not really affecting them. So they don't worry about it, and it's totally fine. But that's for them, those bloated Arameans that are very uncautious with what they drink.
That's funny. That's what they consider tough. They drink uncovered water.
That's correct. To watch themselves. Doesn't mess with the Arameans. Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says in Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, Hai chala de shichra de arama, says the vinegar that comes from the beer, right? That came from beer, right? Normally, I guess vinegar is wine, right? It's spilled wine. But I guess if you've got some over-fermented beer, right? Ulcer, that's prohibited to drink. Why? Dema'arvi be dordia diye nasach, because they mix into their beer the sediments. In order to get it to ferment, they take the sediments of their wine and they mix that into their beer. And so therefore, once they've got anything mixed into it, right, so then that's where it becomes prominent. It adds flavor or taste or helps it ferment, so you can't drink that because of yayin nesach. Omar Ravasi says that ume otsar shari. However, if it comes from the storehouses, then it's fine, because Kavan de Ma'arvi Bay Masra Sari, because if they put sediment of their wine into their beer that is going to get stored for a long time, it would cause it to spoil badly, right? Because that, I guess, over-fermented, I don't know the beer processes of these kinds of things, but I guess by putting it in, it would ruin it, and so therefore you can be sure that if they put it into store, they wouldn't have added that ingredient. But if they were just selling it now, they could add that in and sell it that way. V'cheres hadriani. The next prohibited item in the Mishnah is pottery that came from Hadrian. So what happened? My Hadriani, what was this pottery, Hadrian pottery, and why were we so worried about it? So, Amar of Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Rav Yehuda said the name of Shmuel. Cheres shel Hadrianus Caesar. There was this pottery of Hadrianus the Caesar. That what he did was like this. Ki also Rav Dimi Amar, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, he explained to us what happened here. Karka bisula haisa shelo avda adam me'olam. There was this piece of land that nobody had ever done any work on it at all. It was completely just like left natural. So it's a very, very fertile piece of land because it had never been used before. Avda, so Hadrian came and he started to plow it, Vidnata, and he planted, Virami Lechamra, Begulfi Chivari. So he got this this wine, right? And he got this very strong wine that came from this fertile land, and he stored it in these brand new pitchers, these brand new white pitchers, and umaitzi lehu lechamraihu. And then what happened is the pitchers absorbed the wine into the sides of the pitcher. The pitcher was very porous, right? This brand new, pottery, and it would absorb the wine. So what they then did is they took the pottery shards and they broke it. And v'daru bahadaihu, and they would send they would, when they would go to war or whatever, the soldiers, whatever, they would take a piece of this pottery with them. They get a piece of pottery as part of their kit, right? V'chol heicha dematu toru levishasu. So whenever they would get to a place and they wanted a glass of wine, they would take this piece of pottery and put it in some water, and the wine would come out, and they would have a wine beverage that they would be able to drink, right? I don't know what the labeling was, right? They call it wine, or they call it from concentrate, or whatever it is. But that's basically right. This is what they had. So therefore, you can see it being a problem because these pottery pieces basically had yayin nesach absorbed in them.
It wasn't made by Goyim.
Hadrian, Emperor Hadrian, as Goyish
The
as you
water
can.
turned into wine.
Well, they were goyim too, right? But the original wine that was made was yayin nesach, right? The original wine from Hadrian was yayin nesach. So therefore, whatever got absorbed is yayin nesach. So the pottery itself is yayin nesach.
If a Jew put a cup there and the water turned into wine.
Right. So if yeah. By the way,
I'm just asking.
it's very interesting. You know that story, right? Yeah. So the question is, does this explain that story quite a bit? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. There is a story in the New Testament, right? Just for those that are uninitiated, where Yashki performs his miraculous event, and they put water into these pitchers, right? And the water turns to wine, right? And it's a big miraculous event. And so this seems like a very reliable, very viable.
They took it from Hadrian.
Well, that this could be how they did it, right? So just drop a couple of pieces in, and you've got wine. You've got instant miracle that nobody would be able to observe and see how that happened.
Never mind the pieces. Just have one of those jugs. And just put water.
If sounds like they had the pieces by the time they got to Eretz Yisrael, right? But yes, but if they had a whole jug, that would be amazing. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Yeshua ben Levi says, "Verishon shalanu kishlishi shalahed." You know how strong their wine was? Our first primary wine is like the third glass of wine that comes from that vessel, right? It was very strong, very powerful. So you're thinking that you're getting just like the essence, like whatever dregs. No, this was a powerful, strong beverage, and people drank it as wine. As Hadrian did. So that's what we had to worry about yayin nesach, which is going to lead us into some conversation about absorbed flavors, which gets into kashrus, which will get exciting. So we'll hang on to that. So we asked the following question. So the question is going to be, can I use this pottery for something other than for drinking the wine that's in it, right? So I've got a bed and my floor is uneven. So what I decide to do is I got to put some shims underneath the bedposts in order to get it so that the bed doesn't shake. So can I take this pottery and use it as a shim, right? That's the word for it, right? A shim that goes underneath the bed in order to be able to keep it so that it's still. What's the issue, right? We have a problem that if something is used for Avodah Zara, so you have to destroy it. You can't want to keep it. So the question is, when you've got these pottery shards, is it a pottery shard that has some water, that has some wine absorbed in it? Or is it essentially yayin nesach, and you have to destroy it? So, rotze b'kiyumo al yedei davar acher shari o aser. Right? If you are we don't want to destroy the yayin nesach because we want the pottery shard, because the pottery shard is helping us hold the bed up. Does that allow us to be able to keep it and not let it get destroyed? That's our question. So Toshma, come and listen to Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yochanan. It's an argument between Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yochanan. Chad aser v'chad shari. One said it's prohibited, and one said it is permitted. Okay, and then we have in the parentheses that we remove v'hilchos kiman da asar. Right, the halacha is the one who says that it is asur to keep it. Right, the Rosh says to take that out. Right, we're going to go, but we do go to chumrah like that in any event. When you have a machlokas between Amoraim, we would go to chumrah anyway, and not keep it. I don't know if nobody's got any Hadrian pottery still around. No, okay, good. Meisvei. So he asked the following question: Hadardurin veharuk baos shel ovdei chochavim. These Kalim Beinonium shall mashke, some drink, this some kind of jars or jugs that they use. Huh? They had some kind of jugs or jars that they were using for holding liquids, and rukbos are wine skins. They're made from leather for wine. Shalov de kochavim, and so they have they're non-Jews. You get one of these from a non-Jew. So yayin shel Yisrael kones bahan. If you put kosher wine into those containers, so then aser b'shtia, you can't drink, right? You can't drink the wine anymore. But umuter bahana, but you can get benefit from it. Because we're worried about the taste coming out from the walls of the container, right, and going into the wine. And so that's the absorbed flavors, and we have to worry about the absorbed flavors getting into the wine. And so therefore, that's where we're going to prohibit the drinking of it. But we didn't say, since it's not really, there's no actual wine here, it's just absorbed flavors, we're not going to add the general prohibition that Rabbanan added and make it a prohibition of hana.
Wait, it's usher to drink, but it's mutter to get hana.
Yes.
This is the argument about what we talk about, the caskets or
casks.
Not
yes,
the caskets,
right, not the caskets.
Right.
If you would age your age your scotch in caskets,
Right.
that would be bad.
Yeah.
Right, sherry casks is
Right.
where this is going to basically become our problem, right? And especially if they're going to pick a sherry cask, right? The reason why I'm picking this container is because it imparts that flavor, right? That's the reason why we're doing it. So therefore, there would be halachic challenges about being able to have the liquid become reabsorbed, right, from the cask. I have a book at home on it. I'm going to do a quick chazara of it, hopefully before next year or something. We'll be able to post something about it. The general, obviously, if somebody wrote a book on it, the answer is not so simple. But this is essentially the problem of it, right? You've got a non-Jewish container of wine, and you have the Jew put his wine in it, so the flavor is going to come out. That makes it usher to drink, but mutter b'hana. He'ed Shimon ben Guda lifnei bno shel Rabbi Gamliel. So Rabbi Shimon ben Guda testified, right, in front of the son of Rabbi Gamliel, about Rabbi Gamliel, sheshosu mimeno biako. He drank from such a container in Akko. V'lo hodulo, but they didn't agree with him. They didn't think that's a good idea. Nodos shel ovdei kochavim. Now, the wineskins of non-Jews, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Mishum Rabbi Yeshua ben Kefusai, Asur lasos mehen shtichim lachamor. You can't take these wineskins and make them into saddle, the saddle blankets or some kind of covering for a donkey. Why? Because it's absorbed the wine, and this was our old question. Can I, if I've got something that has absorbed yayin nesach, I have to destroy the yayin nesach. But I want to keep the leather because I'm using the leather for some other purpose now. So can I keep the leather despite the fact that by keeping the leather, I'm not destroying the yayin nesach, which is absorbed in it? Now, this is the circumstance that we were talking about before. Rabbi Yochanan had said it was prohibited, right, to be able to keep these pottery shards and have the beds on them, and because you were going to hold the wine, you were going to keep the wine, which was yayin nesach, and now you're saying that it's permitted to be able to use the leather from the wineskins in order to make saddlebags or whatever for the donkey. So he says, well, according to you, then if you're true, let's say you get containers of wine, empty jugs from a non-Jew. You can't sell them. You can't get any. You can't because you have to destroy them. Is that also part of your prohibition? Maishna nodos umaishna konkonim. So what's the difference? Why is it that the wineskins were able? You didn't have to destroy them. Why is it that the containers of the wine, the empty containers of the non-Jews, were also not required to be destroyed? Rava says, Shema yibaka nodo v'yitlenu. The whole reason is that we don't want you to have them because if your wineskin breaks and your wine is leaking, what are you going to do? You're going to say, what other wineskins do I have? And you're going to pour your wine into the wineskin that is non-kosher. V'yis parno al gabe nodo. And then what he's going to do is,
give the wine of the guy like a taste of the wine himself.
Right, it's going to absorb the flavor. The kosher wine is going to absorb the flavor from the non-kosher wine that was in the container before. So now, that's why we don't want you to. That's why we want you to not keep these wineskins, but you could turn them into something else that you're not going to use it as a wineskin. So, uleman da'amar rotza b'kiyuma yedidavar acher aser. So, but according to the other opinion, who says that what's the problem? The problem is that you're not destroying something which is Avodah Zara. It doesn't matter what you turn it into. It still contains the prohibition of Avodah Zara. So, Maisha konkonim desharu. Why is it that the bottles are okay? So, Amar lehem hasam leisei l'usurei be'einei hacha isei l'usur be'einei. The answer is because the amount of prohibited wine inside this absorbed wineskin or this absorbed bottle is minimal. That's not there's nothing that's really there. You're not going to put water into it and get absorbed and get a wine. Whereas the Hadrian utensil, that question came up about being able to store that, to use that as a bed, shim for the bed. That was prohibited because there the wine is really there, right? There was significant absorbed liquid in that container, in that amount that you couldn't keep. So there's a different halacha for those shards where you couldn't be able to keep them, whereas Rabbi Yochanan would then say that the other wineskins or the bottles would be okay. You don't have to destroy them you don't have to destroy them. Okay. V'lo hodulo. Now he drank from them, Rabbi Gamliel drank from them, and they didn't agree with him. Uraminhi, but we have a contradiction. How could he do that? Yayin haba berukvo shalov de kochavim aser b'shtia umuter b'hana. So we have this brisa that says that if you had wine and it got put into these containers of the non-Jews, you're not allowed to drink it. But we said, you're only permitted to get hana from it, but you're not allowed to drink it. How did Rabbi Shimon Gamliel drink it? How did he do that? So Heid Shimon ben Guda lifnei b'nosha Rabbi Gamliel sheshasa mimenu ba'ako, that he drank from this. Rabbi Shimon ben Guda said in front of the son of Rabbi Gamliel that Rabbi Gamliel drank this in Akko. Vehodulo, according to this girsa, vehodulo, but we change that? No, vehodulo, right? And this, according to this girsa, and they agreed with him. So therefore, this contradicts. On the one hand, you said that you're not allowed to drink, and this girsa says that he drank and it was okay. So my lohodulo dekamar hasam kol siyato. So what did it mean when we said that they didn't before? What does that mean that they didn't agree with him? That where we said before that they didn't agree with him. So that was all of the other rabbis. All of the other rabbis there didn't agree with him. Aval beno module. But his son agreed with him. So that's what it's saying here. On the one hand, they said they didn't agree with him. That was talking about everybody else. And then when they told the story to his son, hodulo, they agreed with him. That was his son. Iboy, same way if you wanted to say, guda l'chud ve'guda l'chud. The people who told the story was two different people. It's machlokes amoroim, whether Rabbi Gamliel's position was accepted or not. Right? One was Shimon ben Guda with an aleph, and one was Shimon ben Guda with an ayin, and they were two different people. One reported the story as Rabbi Shimon Gamliel wasn't accepted, and the other one reported the story as his opinion was accepted. Okay, so next we continue on. Oros lebuvin. The next thing that we couldn't get benefit from idols was skins that had the heart area cut out, because apparently they would use that, to go in and get the heart. Right, that's the Indiana Jones reference.
Yeah.
Okay. Tana Rabban and our rabbis learn Ezehu or labuv. What is this skin where the heart is cut out? Kol shekarua keneged halev. So it is cut opposite where the heart would be in the animal. V'kodor kemin aruba, and it is sliced. Oh, the piece is missing like a window, right? They would cut like a whole section there and go in and get the heart. Yesh alav koret dam. If it's got blood on the skin, so then it's usher, then it's prohibited. Why? Because you presume that it was done while the animal was alive, and it was bleeding, and that's why there is. That's what the hole is there. That was part of the sacrifice. Anal of korek dam, but if it's got no blood on the opening, so then mutter, then it will be fine. Because why? Because the hole got cut after the animal was already skinned. In which case, it had nothing to do with the Avodah Zarah ceremony, because it would only be an issue when it was the animal was alive. Amar Rav Huna says, Lo shanu ela shalom malchu. That only makes a difference if the skin was not already salted. Because of al malchu, if they had salted the skin already, also, even if there's no blood on it, it's still prohibited because ema malchu hevarto, the salt might have absorbed the blood from the skin. So therefore, it might have had blood on it from before, but the salting removed the blood. This part of the beginning part of the tanning process removed the blood from it. So therefore, that's not going to prove anything to you. So if you find skins that have holes in the heart area in the store, avoid those. Okay.
Noted.
Rav Shimon Gamliel says, Bisman shakara shelo agul, that Rav Shimon Gamliel says depends also on the shape of the tear. If it is circular, so then that indicates they were doing it for Avodah Zara. But if it was a slit, it was a length, like a sort of an oval kind of a thing, so then that'll be permissible. That means that the slit was for some other reason, it was not for idolatry. Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, that Rav Yosef said, Rav Shmuel, halach Rav Shimon Gamliel, the halach is like Rav Shimon Gamliel. Amar Abaye, Abaye says, halacha mikal depliki, when you say that the halacha is like him, are you saying that somebody argues with him? We didn't see that anybody, in other words, the Mishnah seemed to imply, right, that you can't use the skin, and then Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, but it has to be in the shape. Now, was he arguing with the previous opinion, or was he just clarifying? It sounds like he was clarifying. Are you saying, basically telling me that somebody argued? Amar Le, so Rav Yosef said back to him, my nafka lach mina, who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, I just told you the halacha is like him. Who cares if somebody argues or if somebody doesn't argue? So Amar Le, so Abaye answered, Gemar Zemur Tateh. He says, what, you think that this is a song? I mean, I'm just memorizing the halachas like Rav Shimon Gamliel. If you tell me something, it's because it has to have a meaning and a purpose. So therefore, if you tell me that the halacha is like Rav Shimon Gamliel, I'll know there was an argument in the halachas like Rav Shimon Gamliel. Just to have me memorize the halachas like Rav Shimon Gamliel and not care whether there was anybody who was arguing with him seems pointless. Okay, next. Basar hanichnas lavodas kachavim mutter. The next thing we said was, if you've got meat and it's on its way to the Avodah Zara temple, presuming it's got a hechsher on it, you know that it was kosher when it was on its way. Well, actually, no, we don't even need to worry about it. We're talking about non-kosher meat, right? It's on its way, but you can't, the issue is hana, the issue is benefit. Right? If it's Avodah Zara, you can't get benefit from it. If it is regular non-kosher meat, I could buy it and give it to my dog for dog food.
It's so funny because in Pesachim, mutter, hana is defined as achila, and like if you have one, you're allowed the other. If you're allowed achila, you're allowed to have hana.
Usually, right? Correct. That's why this is going to.
So like,
here they're going to be because chametz,
right.
Achila and hana go together.
Right.
Right. With Avodah Zara, the hana is an extra bit. Right, and just to review that, because we make sure that it's clear, right? As we're going to see it later on in the Gemara, but we already mentioned it once before. If something is really Avodah Zara, then mi de'oraisa, from a Torah perspective, it's aser behana. You can't get any benefit from it because we compared it to zivchei mesim, to sacrifices of the dead. And just as you can't get any hana from something that's dead, from a dead body, you can't get any hana from something for Avodah Zara. So that is a de'oraisa rule. Then from there, we have rabbinic enactments that are going to prohibit the use of, whenever we see a Avodah Zara issue where you're not allowed to eat it, but hana is okay, we know that's a rabbinic enactment, right? Because the Rabbanan added on this, don't eat that also, right? That's where we had that case before, where we had the liquid that was absorbing. The rabbi said, don't drink that. Why are you not drinking that? Because if you drink that, you might drink from other containers, which we're going to see later on, where you are actually going to have absorbed flavor, and that's going to be really prohibited, and we don't want you doing that. So don't drink that, but hana isn't going to be as prohibited, right? So that's where we see the distinction, because the Chachamim came along and made their additional isurim. Okay, so now, basar hanichnas lavodas kachavim mutter. So if this meat is on its way, they're bringing this meat towards the idolatry temple. That means they're bringing it to the idolatry temple. That means they haven't used it for Avodah Zarah yet. So therefore, all it is regular non-kosher meat, which is great for your hungry dogs and other carnivorous friends.
It's a piece of steak they're delivering.
Right. Exactly, it's just a piece of meat. It's not an issue. So man tano. So, and then we said on the way back, though, it's prohibited on the way back because then it's a animal that got sacrificed for Avodah Zarah, and now you've got Avodah Zarah steak. That you can't get any hana from. So Mantana, who's this opinion? I'm Rabbi Barabba, I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Delo Rabbi Elazar. You know, I'll tell you who it's not like. It's not like Rabbi Elazar. Dik Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says, Amar stam machshavas avodas kochavim lavodas kochavim. He says that whatever the non-Jews do, you always have to presume that it's for Avodah Zarah, and therefore there's going to always be a prohibition of getting hana as long as they are shechting any meat, wherever it is. Okay, so therefore, even if it wasn't in their church or whatever it is, so you can never. So therefore, you're never going to get any benefit from it. So he says, right. Okay, so you're going to continue. Now it seems like that's still a Durabanan rule, but his Durabanan rule is an extra step higher, right? He's saying that you have to presume, it's like the Stam Yinam, which we said also, that you can't get any benefit from it, even though it's only rabbinically prohibited, right? Not going to get any benefit, because we have to presume it's for Avodah Zara and treat it as such. Now, the other way we said, Hayotzi Osir Mipnei Shu Zivche Mesim. If it's on its way out of the church, right, of the Holy Peor, so then then it's like the sacrifice to the dead. My time, what is the reason? It's impossible that it's not for wasn't idolatry. Why are they bringing meat out of the temple? So, Mani, who's this opinion? Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. This is Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira's opinion. Detanu is learner Bryce. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, "Minayin l'tekruvas avodas kochavim shemetame be'ohel." How do we know that if a sacrifice for avodah zara is considered to be tameh, like a dead body, right? And this is basically the point we're making. It is considered the piece of meat is considered like a dead body. Can't get any hana from it. What is the source of that? Well, he says, how do we know that it's if it's in the same room as you, everything inside is tameh, just like a dead body? Where do we know that from? Shenamar, the pasuk says, "Vayitzmedu leba'al por ve'yochlu zivchei mesim." This is a pasuk in Tehillim, but it's talking about last week's parsha, that they attached themselves, the Jews followed Baal Peor, and they ate from the sacrifices of the dead. Ma meis mitame be'ohel, just like a dead body is going to make everything in the tent, underneath the same roof, is tameh. Af tekrovis avodas kochav mitame be'ohel, so too, the sacrifice also is the same thing. And so therefore, anything that was from it, this is Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira's opinion, anything that was from Avodah Zara is like a dead body, can't get any hana from it, we have to worry about tumah, and all of those things. Okay, so that's why our Mishnah says that you have to presume anything that comes from it is asur b'hana. Ha'holchin litarfus asurin laseis v'laseisi mahem. The next thing we said is that if they're on their way to some kind of festival that they're celebrating for Avodah Zara, cannot do any business with them. We said this before in the first parak. Amar Shmuel says, Ovi kochav mahalich letarfus ba'alicha aser. On his way to, when it comes to an idol worshiper, on his way to the festival, that's where it's problematic. Because when he gets there, he's going to go to his church and say, thank God that I came upon this Jewish fellow who did business with me and I was able to sell and whatever. So that's our problem. Bechazara, but if he's coming home, mutter, that's fine. Why? Maida hava hava. Because he doesn't care anymore. Now he's on his way home. He's not going back to the church and saying thank you to God. That was before. So now he doesn't have to worry. So he's not going back to the church to thank his God. So therefore, on his way home, you can certainly do business with him. Not a problem. Yisrael ha'olich letarfos. But if you've got a Jew and he's on his way to serve on this Avodah Zarah festival, b'halicha, on the way there, mutter, that's fine. Why? Because dilma hadarbe. He could do tshuva on his way. You have to be dan l'kaf schus here. The guy's a Jew, right? He's on his way. I'm going to go celebrate on that. Okay, but he's not going to do it, right? He's going to chicken out at the end, right? He's not going to do it. Velo azo bechazara, right? But velo azo, he's not going to go bechazara. But on the way back, asur, then it's prohibited to do business with him. Why? Kevan de'avik be mehadar hadar. If he went through with it, Jews are a lot more zealous in the religious practice than the non-Jews. He is so into this now that he's doing it, even on the way back, if you do business with him, he'll go back to the temple and he'll thank the Avodah Zarah again, right? He's really into it. So therefore, whereas with the non-Jew, you can't do business with him on the way there, but you can on the way back. With the Jew, it's opposite. You could do business with him on the way there, but not on the way back. Vehatanya, but we learned in Bryce, we're in Lama Gimel Amid Aleph. Yisrael ha'olich letarfus. When if a Jewish fellow is going off the derech and he's going to go to this idolatrous festival, bein ba'alicha, bein b'chazara aser, you're not allowed to do business with him there, going or back. So how do we explain that? Where we just said you're allowed going. Right. So Rav Ashi says, Kitanya, that brisa is B'Yisrael Mumar Devade also. That is where you've got a Jewish guy who's already into it, right? This guy's he's already a non-from Jew. He's already been doing Avodah Zara. For sure, he's going to do it. That's not, you have to have a reasonable dan the kafschus, right? If this is his first non-Jewish festival, so okay, he's gonna go back on it, right? But if he's clearly done this before, then don't do business with him on the way there also.
It's like a meme. What did we call him before? The yid who looked to go against
A mumar, yes.
Mumar.
Right. A mimar, right? Tan Rabbanan, our rabbis learn. Ove kochavim haholech liyarid. So if you've got a non-Jew who's going to Yarid, which is a place where they would have a marketplace for idolatry. I think it's the name of a place, right? So, or it was the market day before their idolatry.
They call it a fair.
A fair. Okay, so it's the market day before their idolatry. It wasn't a place. Okay? Bein ba'alicha, bein b'chazar mutter. Then on the way there and on the way back, it's fine. Right? Why? Because they're just doing business. Right? It's not just because that is the fair. Right? It's like, can I go to Walmart and buy something before Christmas? It doesn't matter. They're just doing business. They're selling things. They're not necessarily going to go run to their Avodah Zara and celebrate in their church afterwards. Some of this is very practical, right? It's only economics. Yisrael haholech yarid. If you've got a Jew on his way to this, ba'alicha mutar, on his way there it's okay. Bechazara asur, on the way back not so good. Ma'ishna Yisrael bechazara asur. Why is it that the Jew you can't do business with as he's leaving? Da'amri avodas kochavim zovin dmei avodas kochavim ika bahadei. So he says, well, here's the issue. Where does the money come from when you're at this fair, right? On their way there, okay, so people are just doing business. But if it's an idolatrous fair, you have to presume that somebody who's in there buying and selling things is using money that was consecrated for Avodah Zara to buy and sell things. Therefore, what the problem is that if you do business with somebody at the fair, on their way back from the fair, they're holding on to Avodah Zara money. You don't want to do business with them on the way back because you'll get their Avodah Zara item in your possession, which you can't keep.
How's this different than what we talked about previously? That when they would do these fairs for the Avodah Zara, that they would collect the tax or anything like that, that we were not allowed to do business in that city, only the neighborhood.
Yeah, correct. And that isn't different, right? This is very similar to the things that we discussed in the first parak, right?
Right, but here we say it's mutter to actually do it.
So we're going to ask these questions, right? What's the difference, right? But right now we're seeing a difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. Right, so here's what we're saying is the Jew we're saying on the way back can't do business with him, right? Da'amri avodos kochavim zovin, demei avodos kochavim ikka bahadei. He must have sold an idol to some non-Jew. That's why he went, right? Mel Brooks had a routine, right? He made there was the 2,000-year-old man, and he said he had a lot of jobs in his day. One of his jobs was selling crosses. So he says, much cheaper. He says, but you're a Jew. He says, why are you selling crosses? He goes, the Star of David's got 6 sides. It's much cheaper to make crosses. He says, I'm not I don't take sides. It was a good business. I just had 2. Because I got 2 guys, one guy from this side of the shop, one guy this. They ran together. Bam! I got a cross. With the Jews, I got a whole bunch of more workers. So he goes. So that was. Therefore, this guy, this Jewish guy, goes. I know what I can do to make a living. He gets some idols, goes to the shop, and he's selling little mini Buddhas. Right?
Business.
It's business. But now, on the way back, the non-Jew is using it as an idol. Right? So now he's got all this money from idolatry that he's got. Ove kochavim nami. What about the non-Jew then? And the non-Jew goes to the shop, goes to the market, he's doing the same thing. He must have sold idolatrous items, and now he's got idolatrous money in his possession. No, you know what it is when it comes to the non-Jew? Amrinon glima zavin chamra zavin. You know what? He went to the marketplace. He sold clothes. He sold wine. Nothing to do with Avodah Zara. He just went to the marketplace to sell stuff. Yisrael, not me name Amor Galima Zavin Chamra Zavin. So how do you know the Jew didn't go to the market and sell clothing and wine? Why? How do you know he was selling an idol? The answer is if that's what he had, he would have gone to a Jewish market and sold clothes. He could have sold the clothes and the stuff in the Jewish marketplace. Why did he bother to go out of his way to go to the non-Jewish fair? Because he had the mini Buddhas. And there's not much market for mini Buddhas in the Jewish market. He went to the non-Jewish market specifically to sell that. So therefore, that's why the Jew is problematic, and the non-Jew is not problematic. Okay, so that's the issue. Next, vehaboyin mutarin. On the Mishnah, we said those on their way back that from this fair, so you're allowed to do business with them. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Rabbi ben Lakish says, Lo shanu elish ein kishurin zeh bazeh. He says this is only if the group is not a collective group anymore. Everybody, like the fair ended, right? And everybody went to go find their way back. This one went to the red line. This one went to go take the train, the number 2 line home. This one went to the bus. Everybody's on their way home, scattering around. So then, so you could stand on the sidewalk and offer to sell water bottles. That's not a problem, right? Aval kishurin zeh bazeh. But if the group is getting on the church bus, right? They're all still together. So then asurin, then it's prohibited to do business with them. Why? Emadato lachzor, because since the group has not disbanded, they may be sticking around for a bit and doing more idolatry, right? They're still together, right? So that's you have to be able to know. And I guess this is basically, you got to know who your customers and what their plans are, right? But we understand the general principle. Don't sell to them if they're going to go back and thank their God, right? That's why you say that this sounds like the first parak. The answer is yes. It's got to be very consistent with what we said in the first parak, that the prohibition has to do with making them happy on a holiday such that they will then thank their God. If we wind up in a circumstance where they're happy, but it has nothing to do with their God, and they're not thinking about it, then there's no problem doing business with the non-Jews.
It also seems like they're going and coming. They're not actually at the fair.
Correct.
So that was,
Nodos ha'ovdi kochavim v'kan kenehem. Now let's talk more about these wine skins and these bottles, these containers that these non-Jews had, and the halachos of having kosher wine stored in these containers that non-Jews had. So Tana Rabbanan, rabbis were nodos ha'ovdi kochavim grudim chadashim mutarim. So he says if you've got these idolaters have these containers, so if they are smooth, right? So they would just take out the earthenware containers and they were new, so then they're permissible, right? Then they're permissible. They haven't used them yet. That's what makes them chadashim. They're not used yet. And also they don't have any, and they haven't been lined with pitch. They're grudim, they're smooth. They have not been lined with a pitch, which they would use. They would put that into their container. They would line it with pitch in order to help it be waterproof, I suppose, and preserve the container. Yeshanim, but older ones that they were already used, umezufafin, or if they put pitch on the inside of it. So then asurin, then they become prohibited, right? Then if the Jew puts wine into it, then we presume the wine flavor has left the sides of the container and goes into the kosher wine. Then it becomes prohibited to drink and hana. Can't get any benefit from it either because it becomes reabsorbed yayin nesach. Okay. So therefore, that discussion that we had before, where we said it was permissible to use, was only under these conditions where they were new and they weren't lined. If you go to the used shop and you're buying used containers that are not kosher, right? Sometimes you see like on eBay or whatever, and there's somebody selling China used plates or something like that. It's a problem because already the flavors and things have been absorbed. Ove kochavim rivavan ve'ibdon v'nasan l'tochan yayin. So if a non-Jew is the one who put the pitch in, and he put wine into the pitch. So then the Yisrael omed al gabav, and a Jew is standing over him, watching him do it, right? So then eno choshesh, then it's fine. Now, here's going to be the question, right? What happens is part of the ingredients of the pitch, they would put wine into the pitch so that the flavoring, because pitch is not nice flavored. So what they would do is they would mix into the pitch some wine so that it would remove some of the bad taste from the pitch, so that it wouldn't impact the flavors of the wine negatively. So what has to happen according to this is there has to be a mashgiach when you're watching somebody if they're making a brand new utensil and they're going to line the inside with pitch. So you have to have a Jew standing there as mashgiach watching the non-Jew do it. Okay, so now, so the question the Gemara wants to know is, look, if one of the ingredients in the pitch is wine, so ki Yisrael omed al gabav my havi, how does it help to have the Jew standing there watching him. So the Jew is watching him add the non-kosher ingredients to the pitch. How does it help? Right? The purpose of a mashgiach is to prevent you from doing but if the mashgiach is there to watch you do the thing that you don't want him to do, he's just standing there watching. Great, he's pouring the wine right into the pitch, no problem. Then how does that help anybody? So I'm a Rav Papa says, Hachikamer, this is what it means. Ove kochavim rivavon ve'ibdon, right? The non-Jew, he's doing the pit, he's making the container, and he puts and he lines with the pitch. The Yisrael nosin l'tochan yayin, and the Jew has to be the one who adds the wine to the pitch. That's what the mashgiach's job is. This way, the non-Jew doesn't touch the wine, right? So you take the non-Jew doesn't touch it, but it comes time to add the wine to the pitch, then the Jew pours it in. Now, once it's mixed into the pitch, it shouldn't be a problem. So we said we had those situations and circumstances where we had wine as an ingredient to other foods. They weren't going to consecrate that for their Avodah Zara once it's already mixed in. So as long as the Jew pours the wine into the pitch, then the non-Jew can do it, right? So Yisrael acher omed aga above, and you need to have another Jew standing over watching the whole process. Now ve'eno choshesh, right? And then that's fine, right? So then that's okay. Now you're looking a little bit nervous and concerned. Something's bothering you.
No.
Can't put your finger on the idea, but that's probably bothering is what is the second Jew's job?
Right.
You had the first Jew take care of the problem. What's the second Jew standing there watching the whole thing?
It's the mashkia on top of a mashkia.
Right.
Right.
So me'acher di Yisrael nosing l'tochan yayin. So once the Jew is taking care of the wine problem, so then Yisrael acher omed al gabav lamali. Why do I need the second Jew standing there for? Right? It sounds like a union job, right? Got the one Jew, and then the other Jew stands over, watches the first Jew. Okay? The answer is Dilma agav tir day. The answer is because whining with pitch, it's working with hot materials, it's dangerous. So the guy who's pouring the wine into the pitch, he's got one focus, right? He's worrying about the pitch, he's worrying about the wine. He's got that. Agav tir day. So Dilma agav tir day minasech. So velav adate. So he says what's going to happen is we're worried that while this Jewish fellow is so worried about the wine, right? He's putting the wine in. So then the non-Jew is also going to get some wine. He's going to pour some out, and he's going to pour that into the pitch as well. And so therefore, that we have to worry about. Right? So therefore, the purpose of the first Jew is to pour the wine so that the non-Jew doesn't make it yayin nesech. The purpose of the second guy is to watch the non-Jew, make sure he doesn't add any other ingredients to the pitch, and then ruin it. So you've got two jobs there. Rav Zvid says liolam kid kamart. So he says Rav Zvid says it's like we had said meikara. It's like kid kamart meikara. It's like you said at first, right? That the non-Jew is adding the wine and the Jew is standing over him, and we don't have to change the story here and make it so the Jew is pouring the wine. V'hacha beidna de kashadile nase kazorik mayim litit. So he says, but here, right, when the non-Jew is adding the wine, so then all that's going on here is the water is getting burned out. It's like water getting put into plaster, and the water eventually dries. That's what makes the plaster hard. So that's the same thing here, that the wine that gets poured into the pitch doesn't become problematic because the pitch eventually hardens and dries in order to form the waterproof seal that's there, and so therefore any yayin nesach that was in the mixture is what do you call it?
Dissolved.
It's not, the word isn't dissolved, right? It's evaporated, right? It's evaporated and it's gone, and so therefore you don't have to worry about any more yayin nesach coming out of the pitch. It's already mixed into the pitch and absorbed into it, so that the solid pitch is now one solid thing. It's the yayin nesach is gone. That's
we
the
said
point.
it's affecting the tam. That's the only thing.
Correct.
It's affecting the tam. It's like batal b'shishi. If it affects the tam.
So the issue of it's in this circumstance, since you're mixing it with something that hardens, the liquid is gone, right? Yeah, it can't be yayin anymore if the liquid is and therefore, since liquid is dissolved, it can't reabsorb into the taste of the kosher wine. That's the issue there, right? Amr, that's the opinion that Razvid shares, right? It's like water into a plaster that dries out. There's no liquid at the end of the day once it all dries out. Amr Rav Papi says Shmami Mid Rav Zvid. So you can learn from what Rav Zvid says. If a non-Jew were to take some wine and pour it into some salt, for a Jewish person has a bunch of salt, and he sprinkles some wine in it, so shari, that's also okay, because the salt, there's no liquid there anymore, right? The liquid is gone. And if that's Rav Zvid's point, once the liquid is gone, so then it's not yayin nesech anymore, the salt also absorbs the liquid and it's gone, and so you should be fine there also. But Maskiflo Ravashi asks the question that midami yosam, that's not the same. There, he says, when it comes to the pitch, the wine is evaporated and gone. It's destroyed. When it comes to the salt, the wine is just absorbed into the salt. It's not gone. It's part of now absorbed into the salt. He sees a distinction between the two circumstances. Therefore, the pitch is a problem, but the wine is not a problem. Okay, so but maybe we should stop here so people get their toast filling out for you.
So if I understand correctly,